Hour number 2 of the show, the Sports Spectacular, powered by IlliniGuys.com. Larry Smith, Brad Sturdy, Mike Kegley. Don't forget, we've got our Black Friday special coming up. Be sure to go on the website and check that out. It has been a big hit every single year. 3 different kinds of sweatshirts. Some are like collecting them like you used to collect the plates, like back in the 70s. Buy one and there's a plate inside the box. They're doing that. We may not do a sweatshirt, though. You got to check out IlliniGuys.com and see. But it's always a really good deal, very popular. And, of course, inside 100+ articles, independent original articles every month during the season on IlliniGuys.com. It's pennies per. It just, and then, of course, the message board, too. Got to get in there. Hey, it's recruiting time. And here he is. He parked his horse outside. We appreciate that because inside just makes a mess. Kedric Prince right in a little recruiting roundup. He's the director of recruiting for IlliniGuys. Ked, always good to see you coming in from the West. We appreciate you. Let's talk first a story you had on the front page this week on IlliniGuys.com about a JUCO player, Perry Cole, checking out the Illini. What can you tell us?
Larry, first of all, I'm glad to be back with the fellas again, with the hat and all. But to answer your question about Perry Cole, this was really weird. He is a 6'3", 290-pound defensive lineman. What I found different, and he's a JUCO kid out of Trinity Valley Community College in Texas. But when he listed his top 4, which was TCU, UNLV, Minnesota, and Illinois, a lot of fans gave a lot of interest to this kid. It was unlike any other junior college kid that I've seen in recent years at Illinois. He's a 3-star recruit. But then when I went to look at his film, I can understand why. The kid is just extremely talented, gifted, quick. He's going to play wherever he goes, whatever school he goes, he's going to make a difference to some program right away just based off his talents alone. I looked up his stats, and he already has 4 sacks and 33 tackles. But here's a kid that is so wanted by these 4 schools, he's shut down, which is unheard of after you list your top 4. So Illinois is in good shape with him. The one thing I did find out about Illinois is that Brett Bielema must put guys in the pros, and that's one of the reasons he's interested in Illinois.
And he hopes to visit after Thanksgiving, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, yes, it is correct.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. He's got a visit upcoming. How important are these visits now? As we get to the end of this football season, there are going to be more and more of these visits coming up as we enter this early signing period for football. How important is this right now as we inch closer?
Brad, I'm glad you asked that question. Mike and our colleague and we had a conversation about this last week. This is big because when the season was over years ago, season was over. Now you're going to be playing in a bowl game. If you win 2 games, you're going to be playing in a great bowl game. So recruiting and the buzz around the program, it's different because now you're going to get all the advertisements and people wanting to go watch you play. And now you can sell the fact where you're building a program. And like I just mentioned, there's player development. You put guys in the NFL. But Brad, the biggest thing is coaches really use the off season, if you will, because it's late when the season's over, as a recruiting tool in football. Because now all the players are still on campus and they're preparing for a bowl game. That's hard to replace. Illinois hasn't been lucky enough, in my opinion, to have that tradition. Now with Brett Bielema, who's building a program, that's hopefully going to be the norm.
When you look at the reputation of Illinois across the country, are the conversations different with the recruits when you're talking to them versus just even 2-3 years ago?
Mike, the conversation, it's remarkably different. If there's not enough time in my segment to tell our listeners and tell the 3 of you on this show how many recruits that Illinois has beat out from Penn State, from Minnesota, from Michigan. They have done a tremendous job. If you look at the list, and now it's like people are taking it for granted. So to answer your question, in the past, no disrespect to the other coaches and these programs, but it was Miami of Ohio, schools like that, Western Michigan. Now you're going up against Big Ten folks and you're winning these recruiting battles. That's something that Illinois hasn't done in a while. And if you go do research, you'll see who these kids pick and who their final lists are.
To basketball now, and a big signing period this week just happened. 2 guys coming in class of 2025, Keaton Wagler and Brandon Lee. What can you tell us about these future Illini?
I want to start right away with Brandon Lee. He is a 6'4" guard, 180 pounds out of New Jersey. He's a four-star recruit, one of the top players in New Jersey. He is just wired to score. Butch Lee is his father, who played at Marquette. I've had a phone conversation with him that was supposed to last 5 minutes, but it was like 45 minutes to an hour, explaining to me, because some of the Illinois fans, I think at the time, they were, is this kid really good? Is he not? But the point I'm making is, his father was telling me the competition that he played against and who and how well he did and how good of an explosive player he is. And Illinois fans will be excited. They don't care about the rankings because some kids don't play for the best AAU programs. The notoriety's not there. But that is a kid that's really outstanding. Like I mentioned, he's wired to score. Illinois really likes that about him. The other guy is Keaton Wagler, another big guard, a 6'6" guard out of Shawnee, Kansas. I know I mentioned on our IlliniGuys site at one point in time that Kansas was getting in late on him. Underwood likes him because he's a winner. He scores the ball. He's a big guard. And he's the one kid that Underwood mentioned that could possibly play 1, 2, and 3. So I know people look at the recruiting numbers, but this staff is looking at this kid, and there's not a kid on this roster, on the Illinois roster right now. I guess maybe KJ that could do that. So they're looking at guys who are just positional players that can play multiple positions, and the two guys that they just signed can do that.
Yeah, Lee's track record, he scored 23 points a game on the EYBL circuit, scored 19 per game in the Peach Jam itself. And then he also played on the Puerto Rican national team. So he's got that international experience, extremely successful there. New York Wren's AAU program, same program that gave Illinois Kofi Coburn back in the day. And then Keaton Wagler, you've got a kid who, Ked mentioned him being a winner. And that's so true. His high school team was undefeated. They went 24-0. His AAU team, I believe, was 35-4 over the summer. So you're talking about a guy who just wins, and he's 6'6". And high school game, here's the weird part about him is in high school, he scored like 13, 14 points a game because he facilitated. He was just an unselfish player. He scored a few more in AAU, but he's very efficient, and he shoots a high percentage, but he doesn't have to have the ball all the time. So he's a great guy to fit in and be a part of a team early on. He's going to have to get stronger, and I think you'll see that happen in his first couple of years.
Ted, how does this set the team up then? Are they done? Is there going to be anything going on at the last minute in the spring, or do you think this kind of settles the class?
From a high school standpoint, I will never say never with the University of Illinois. I just know that they're going to continue to recruit high school players, probably not to the extent that they've done in the past, but I would expect at least maybe 1 or 2 more guys. And a lot of that's going to depend on what the roster is going to look like next year as well. The coaches sometimes will have an idea, Mike, of who they want back if the kids are talking about leaving. They're always going to recruit. And that's the one unique thing about recruiting today, and especially with Illinois now, because they have a brand, they can sell what they've done, and it's easier to get those kids on campus than what it was in the past.
Talking with Kedric Prince, Director of Recruiting for IlliniGuys.com. My goodness, thinking about the Fighting Illini and what they're doing on the court. That kind of gets me to my next question. And Ken, I want to get your thoughts, and we'll get Brad and Mike as well. Tell us how this has changed. Recruiting has changed in the era of the portal. Look at right now where you've got Will Riley, a 5-star player who recommitted to the 2024. He was 2025. He's from Canada. You get 2 players from Europe in Yakuchonis and Ivisic. It used to the travel, even in the transfer portal when it began, you get 1 or 2 players here or there, April and May, and then you're done. This is one where Illinois, half of their rotation came to them after June 1 because of the way things went. And that means fewer work as well on the high school level. So talk about how it's changed, how the coaches now probably, I'm sure, are not identifying or chasing as many high school players as they did even 3 or 4 years ago.
As much as I hate to admit this, and I don't know how the other 2 gentlemen are going to respond to this, it is different. We cannot lie and say that it's not, because you look at Illinois' roster last year, it's different. The transfers made a big difference. Terrence Shannon was arguably one of the top 2 players in the country, was a transfer. It's not like it once was. And Larry, being in this business for such a long time, I can see the difference. When Illinois signed, we talked about Wagler and we talked about Lee, the buzz wasn't the same. I think part of it is because of the transfer portal. The fans know if, say, they're going to go get a kid from Purdue, they know what that kid's going to be like. They know they've seen this kid. So I don't know if that's a part of it, but it is not the same magnitude. On the flip side of that, there's always going to be the exception to the Will Rileys and the Cooper Flags of the world. Those kids are going to be difference makers. But I think the kids who fall after the 50 and 60 mark, some of those kids is different from a recruiting standpoint. It's not like it once was, because the transfers, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I agree with Ked. I think it's more at the end of the year, you also know what your needs are better. Because of the transfer portal, you don't know who's staying, who's coming, going, all that kind of stuff. I would say also, I would also add this, that they're gonna recruit high school kids. You have to recruit 3 or 4 high school kids every year. They're not gonna go and fill all their scholarships with high school kids, though. You're going to wait and see what's in the portal, because, and Ked mentioned this, the portal guys have proven themselves already in many cases. The high school kids haven't done it yet. Yes, there are freaks. There are the guys like Will Riley, the Cooper Flags, even Kasparis, and even Ivasic, who's done at professional level. But generally speaking, the freshmen come in, they've got to grow, they've got to learn, they're going to have a hard time making an immediate impact.
Is this part of what we're going to see across the country? Like, it seems like even Kentucky isn't going all freshmen anymore. Is that because the transfer portal just gives you better, more experienced players?
When you look at the tournament, you guys, the teams that have traditionally done well are the teams that are older, or at least have a couple of older guys that have been through the wars. That matters. And it's great to have the young talent. Will Riley, as great as he's playing right now, and Cooper Flag are the two guys that we mentioned, at some point, they're probably going to hit a wall. I don't want to see that happen. But when you have a player like, let's use Terrence Shannon, who was at Illinois last year, when he struggled scoring after coming back, he was able to get to the free throw line. Those guys find ways to score, impact the game in other ways. That's the one glaring difference. The transfer portal, to me, is a game changer. I think it's great for college basketball. At first, I didn't think I would like it, but when you do a mixture, what Illinois is doing with high school kids or overseas players now, and the transfer portal, I think it's great. Anybody to sit and say that the transfer portal hasn't affected high school basketball, they're kidding themselves, because even when you go to AAU events, you don't see as many people at those events as you once did. They go, coaches go, but it's not like it once was maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
And we're going to have evolution as we go forward. Things are going to change. I don't think college basketball in its current state is going to stay this way long term. And Brad Underwood, I've talked to Brad Underwood about this. He says within the next 5 years, there'll be another transition to a different style, a different way that this is done. And so I think that there's going to be changes. So one thing, that's why Illinois is in great hands. They have a coach that is adaptable. He's changed his philosophy 3 or 4 times since he's got to Illinois, and he always finds a way to come out on top.
Yeah, that he does. You remember before he kept his scholarship open, he got Dane Danger, who transferred this past offseason to Memphis, but look what he did off the bench. He was capable of double digits points or rebounds at any time, valuable member, and now he's going more overseas and getting some guys are just pieces to fill. Matisse, the Seal, several years ago, right early on, first couple of years, Spicy G, those guys. But getting some guys actually are going to be big contributors. Hey, Ken, as always, man, we appreciate it. Watch that 10-gallon hat on the way out. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, Kedric Prince. Once again, great stuff on our website, IlliniGuys.com. He is the director of recruiting for the website, IlliniGuys.com, and always great insights here. Okay, we've got our grab bag segment up next. What do the fellows want to talk about? I'll find out together.